Welcome back, everyone, to Echoes of Ihsan. And today we're going to really try to take a deep dive into Sahih Bukhari,
Okay.
specifically Book 48,
Okay, great.
which is all about witnessing.
Wonderful topic.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Yeah.
And really gives you a sense of how the early Muslims
Yeah.
viewed the idea of personal integrity,
Right.
community responsibility,
Yeah.
legal proceedings,
Yeah. All tied together.
and how they're all really tied together.
Absolutely.
Like a tapestry almost.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of these principles,
Yeah.
they seem so basic.
Hmm.
But when you really think about it, they're still relevant today.
Right.
Truth-telling,
Absolutely.
slander,
Yeah.
fairness in judgment,
Yeah.
the responsibility of bearing witness.
Yeah.
These are all
Huge.
super important for a just and equitable society.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to unpack this with you.
Yeah, this would be good.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think a good place to start is with one of the most impactful stories
Okay.
in the book.
Okay.
And that's the story of Aisha,
Right.
the Prophet Muhammad's wife,
Right.
and the accusation made against her
Mm-hmm.
of adultery.
Right. And this is in Hadith 805.
Yes, exactly.
And the surrounding narrations.
Yep.
It's a story that has captivated Muslims for centuries,
Yeah.
not just because it involves,
One of the most beloved figures.
Right. But because it really reveals a lot about the Prophet's character
Mm-hmm.
and how he dealt with such a sensitive situation.
Right.
I mean, imagine being accused of something like that,
Right.
especially when you're someone in her position.
Yeah. And at that time, this could have really just blown up the entire community.
Absolutely.
It's a very, very sensitive issue.
Right. And what I find really remarkable is that the Prophet
Yeah.
didn't just immediately react
Right.
based on his emotions.
Right. He didn't.
Why bias?
He paused
Right.
and he thought about it. He consulted with people.
He consulted with his companion.
Yeah, like Ali and Usama,
Right.
and, sought their advice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just such a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that even when emotions are running high,
Especially then.
you have to really prioritize fairness and truth
Absolutely.
and seek counsel.
Yeah. Get different perspectives.
And it's not even just about human counsel.
Right.
The prophet also turns to Allah,
Of course.
right? Seeking divine revelation.
Seeking guidance.
Yeah, for guidance.
Hmm.
And he waits patiently for Allah's word.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Even in a situation that's so personal,
Right.
he prioritizes truth and justice above all else.
Absolutely. A testament to his character.
And throughout all of this, we can't forget Aisha.
Right.
Her strength is so inspiring
And
in her words.
Especially in Hadith 829.
Yeah.
When she draws a parallel between her situation
Mm-hmm.
and the situation of Prophet Joseph.
Right.
Yeah. Who was also falsely accused.
Yeah, it's just such a
It's so powerful.
powerful statement.
She says, by Allah, I never thought that Allah would reveal divine inspiration in my favor.
Mm-hmm.
She had complete trust in Allah's justice.
Yeah,
And you could just feel that in her words.
you really can. And her belief in her own innocence.
Right. And it's a reminder
Yeah.
that even when we're facing adversity or
Mhm.
unjust accusations,
Right.
faith in Allah and a commitment to righteousness can really give us
Strength.
strength.
Skills.
Yeah, and solace.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this episode also highlights a really important legal procedure
Oh, yeah.
in Islam.
Yeah.
The Quran is Surah Al-Nur,
Yes.
verse 24.
Verse 24.
It outlines a specific procedure
Mm-hmm.
called lemon,
Leaving yen. Yeah.
and it's for cases of adultery accusations.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit what that entails?
Sure. So Limian basically involves
Yeah.
a series of oaths and pronouncements made by both the husband and wife.
Okay.
So the husband has to swear 4 times by Allah.
Okay, that he is truthful
Right.
in his accusation.
Okay.
And then the 5th time, he invokes a curse upon himself if he's lying.
Okay.
And then in response to that, the wife swears 4 times by Allah that her husband is lying.
Okay.
And then the 5th time, she invokes a curse upon herself
Wow.
if he is telling the truth.
It sounds incredibly serious.
It is very serious.
Yeah.
It emphasizes the gravity of the accusations.
Um,
And it really, tries to ensure that people are only making these accusations
Yeah.
when they're absolutely certain.
so it's a deterrent to people just throwing these accusations around.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
It's not something to be taken lightly at all.
And it also emphasizes the importance of honesty
Absolutely.
and truthfulness
Mhm.
because you're literally
Invoking,
curses.
right, invoking
Divine consequences.
divine consequences.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
So this story, it's just so fascinating because it has all these different dimensions. It's not just like a historical anecdote. It's like
It's a lesson.
a lesson in ethics and faith
Mm-hmm.
and the pursuit of justice.
Right. And it gives us a lot to think about in terms of how we approach these kinds of situations today.
Absolutely. And it really lays the groundwork for understanding
Yeah.
the concept of witnessing.
In Islamic jurisprudence?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But this book,
Yeah.
it's not just about
Big dramatic.
these huge dramatic events
Yeah.
like Aisha's story.
No, it's not.
It also gives really practical guidance on
Mm.
everyday matters.
Absolutely.
Like, for instance,
Yeah.
Hadith 809 and 810,
Okay.
they highlight the role of community testimony
Yeah.
in legal proceedings.
Mm-hmm. Crucial aspect of life back then.
I mean, you can imagine back then,
Mhm.
written documentation
Not as common.
wasn't as common as it is today.
Yeah.
So public perception,
Mm-hmm.
the testimony of people who knew you,
Yeah. The people around you.
it really mattered.
It really did.
I mean, can you imagine a society where your reputation and legal standing,
Your whole life.
Yeah. Your whole life was based on what your neighbors
Right.
and your colleagues
Mhm.
and your acquaintances said about you?
Right.
I mean, it really puts into perspective
It does.
The power of our words
It does.
and the impact they can have.
Absolutely.
you know, think about gossip,
Rumors,
Yeah.
unfounded accusations,
Right.
all that stuff.
It can be devastating.
It can be devastating. And
Yeah.
Islam takes that very seriously.
Very seriously.
Yeah.
And we see that
Right.
in some of the other hadiths.
Like 819.
821,
Oh, yeah. 822.
Yeah.
They outline
Consequences.
the consequences.
That's on giving false witness.
Yeah, of lying.
Right.
Of distorting the truth.
Mm.
All of that.
Yeah.
It's not just about lying.
Right.
It's about, potentially causing harm to people.
To innocent people.
Yeah, to innocent people.
Yeah.
And Hadith 820,
Mm-hmm.
it stresses the importance of fulfilling oaths,
Right.
right? Because our words have power,
They do.
right? And they should be used responsibly,
Mhm.
truthfully.
And oaths in particular,
Yeah.
they hold a sacred place
Mhm.
in Islam.
Right. Because you're invoking.
Invoking the name of Allah as
Okay.
a testament to your commitment, your
Yeah.
integrity.
So I want to talk about
Yeah. A really good example.
a good example
Oaths are
of how seriously Islam takes oaths.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the story of Al-Ashhath
Okay.
and the revelation of Quranic verse 3.77.
Right. So this is detailed in
Yeah.
Hadiths 834 and 836.
Okay, so Al-Ashhath,
Yeah.
he was a companion of the Prophet,
Mm-hmm.
and he found himself in a dispute over some land,
Okay. A land dispute.
yeah, with a Jewish man.
Mm-hmm.
And he was concerned that this man might take a false oath
Right.
to gain ownership of the property,
Mm-hmm. Unjustly.
right, unjustly.
Yeah.
So he goes to the Prophet Muhammad,
He goes to the Prophet
right, for guidance.
for advice.
And the Prophet Muhammad
Yeah.
reassures him
Mm-hmm.
that Allah would be angry
Right.
with anyone who took a false oath to take someone else's property.
Mm-hmm.
And then right at that moment,
Wow.
Quranic verse 3.77 is revealed.
Right on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it condemns those who make false oaths.
Yeah, to acquire wealth
Yeah. Unjustly.
unjustly, right?
It's-
It's a very powerful moment.
Yeah, it's a very powerful moment.
That shows how seriously this is taken.
Yeah, and it's not just about
Abstract.
abstract concepts
Yeah.
of justice and ethical
Yes.
conduct. Like,
Right.
it has real-world implications.
Real world consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
So this is just one example of
Yeah.
how witnessing was crucial for establishing justice
Right.
in 7th century Arabia.
Especially then.
Right, because imagine
Yeah.
you're living in that time
Right. Mm-hmm.
where written records are rare.
Right.
So how do you ensure fairness?
Yeah. How do you determine
How do you determine what's true
what's true, what's not true?
and what's not true?
Who's reliable?
Right, and how do you make sure that legal disputes are settled fairly?
Right.
I mean, it really puts a lot of emphasis
It does.
on the role of witnesses.
Yeah. Their testimony was often the primary source of evidence.
Right.
And so there were all these rules that were developed
Okay.
to govern who could be a witness,
Okay,
how their testimony was weighed,
right.
all to try to ensure that things were fair and accurate.
It's like a system built on trust,
Yeah.
community knowledge,
Right.
and really understanding human character.
Exactly.
And we see this in Hadith 811,
Okay.
where Umar bin al-Khattab, one of the Prophet's companions,
Those companions.
right, a future caliph,
Right.
he's judging a case
Mm-hmm.
based on community testimony.
Right. He's trying to assess people's character
Yeah.
based on what others say about them.
And Umar,
Right.
known for his wisdom.
Yes.
Right.
And his just leadership.
And his just leadership. He really relied on the accounts of people who knew.
The people involved.
Yeah, the people involved in the dispute. I mean, it's fascinating to see how they applied the prophet's teachings in a practical way.
In a practical setting.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it shows the importance of community involvement
Yeah.
in upholding justice.
So the Prophet Muhammad, he often relied on the testimony of multiple people.
Multiple witnesses.
Right.
To corroborate claims.
Yeah.
And really establish the truth.
So it was a system of checks and balances.
It was trying to prevent bias,
right,
false accusations.
All of that, things like that, yeah.
But there are also cases, right,
Yeah.
where the prophet, through divine inspiration,
right,
could see the truth, even when there wasn't
enough evidence.
Or conflicting evidence.
Or the evidence was conflicting. And this is alluded to in Hadith 809.
Okay.
And it reminds us that even though human judgment is important, you know, we strive for fairness and accuracy.
Right.
There's a higher power that ultimately governs truth and justice.
Yeah.
Which brings us to a sensitive topic.
Okay.
That's addressed in Hadith 826.
All right.
And it mentions the difference
in weight
given to women's versus men's testimony.
Yeah, and it states that the testimony of a woman is equal to half of that of a man.
Okay.
And I think it's really important here to understand the context.
The historical and cultural context.
Yeah, the historical and cultural context.
Of 7th century Arabia. Yeah. This is a topic that has generated a lot of discussion and debate.
Yeah, it can be a little bit perplexing at first glance.
It can. Right. And so it's important to approach it with sensitivity and nuance.
Right, because interpretations and applications can vary.
Depending on the circumstances.
Right.
Different legal schools of thought.
And you know, our goal here isn't to give definitive answers on these complex issues.
Right.
Yeah. We're just trying to present the information
as accurately as possible.
Right. As accurately as possible.
And encourage thoughtful reflection and further study.
So having explored this idea of witnessing in legal contexts, I think it's important to point out that it goes beyond the courtroom.
It does. It's a much broader concept.
Yeah. Sahih Bukhari shows us that these principles
of truthfulness, accountability,
they extend to all different parts of life.
All aspects of life,
Like, for instance, upholding promises, agreements.
Right.
We see this in Hadith 848.
Okay.
With the story of Jabir receiving his due from the Prophet's estate.
Right. So Jabir reminded Abu Bakr, who was in charge of distributing the inheritance of a promise that the Prophet had made to him.
Right.
And Abu Bakr honored that promise.
Without any hesitation.
Yeah, immediately.
And that's just such a beautiful example.
It is.
Of how even after the Prophet's passing, his promises were
still upheld.
Yeah, meticulously fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it really shows the respect.
The importance of fulfilling your commitment.
For commitments in Islam.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not just about legal proceedings.
Right.
It's about holding ourselves accountable.
To a higher standard.
Yeah, to a higher standard in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
And then we have another really interesting application of the concept of witnessing, which is foster relationships.
Right.
And their impact on marriage.
Right.
And we see this in a series of hadiths.
Yeah, there are a bunch.
808. 812.
814.
814.
And 815.
That showcase.
Yeah, how these situations were addressed.
How the Prophet Muhammad addressed these really specific situations related to foster relationships and their implications for marriage.
Right.
Like, for example, Hadith 808.
808.
It tells the story of Uqba, who had to divorce his wife after a woman testified that she had breastfed.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them.
As infants.
As infants.
Right.
So this highlights the principle that foster relationships.
Established through breastfeeding.
Right.
Create a bond that prohibits marriage.
Right. So even relationships.
Formed in infancy.
That are formed in infancy.
Yeah. Can have lasting.
Yeah, lasting implications.
Impacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like Islam is trying to strike this balance.
It is. It's a delicate balance.
Between upholding
the sanctity of marriage.
Yeah, the sanctity of marriage.
But also recognizing the profound impact of foster relationships.
It's really fascinating.
It is. How they dealt with these situations.
Yeah, how they dealt with these really, really complex situations with fairness and compassion.
And clarity.
Yeah, and clarity. Yeah. And it's amazing how they address these social issues that are still so relevant today.
Right. Like they were dealing with stuff that we're still grappling with, centuries later.
Yeah. And one that really stands out to me is Hadith 852.
Okay.
Where the Prophet, during the expedition of the Battle of Tabuk, states, "Although I am Allah's apostle, I do not know what will be done to me."
Wow.
And this was in response to a woman's testimony about Uthman ibn Affan's piety.
Right.
I mean, it's just such a powerful moment.
It is.
It really shows the humility
of the
Prophet Muhammad.
Even in his position.
Even as the messenger of God.
It's really remarkable.
He's acknowledging that there are certain things that only Allah knows.
Right. He's not claiming to know the ultimate fate of any individual.
Exactly. And even though the woman testified that Allah had blessed Uthman, the Prophet clarifies that that was her personal belief.
Right. It wasn't a divinely revealed truth.
It's like he's saying, hey, I respect your opinion, but we have to be careful about making pronouncements about other people's spiritual standing.
Exactly. We should focus on our own actions and our relationship with Allah.
Right. Because ultimately, that's what matters.
Absolutely.
And it's a good reminder for us today, with all the judgment and speculation that goes on.
Especially on social media.
Oh, yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in that.
So easy to get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And speaking of being careful with our words, there's another hadith where the Prophet criticizes a man for excessively praising another person.
Really?
Yeah, in front of him.
Interesting.
It seems kind of surprising at first.
Yeah, why would that be a problem?
Right, like you would think that praising someone is a good thing.
Right.
But it's actually hadiths 830 and 831.
Okay.
That offers a really valuable lesson here.
What is it?
The Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
He cautions against this kind of exaggerated praise.
Okay.
Because he says it can lead to arrogance in the person being praised.
Right. You don't want to inflate their ego.
Exactly. And it can also burden them.
With expectations.
Yeah, with unrealistic expectations.
That they might not be able to live up to.
Right. So it's almost like he's saying, don't put people on a pedestal.
Yeah. Let their actions speak for themselves.
Yeah, let their actions speak for themselves.
And focus on praising those actions.
Right.
Rather than just, showering them with empty praise.
It's about humility and sincerity in our interactions.
And recognizing that only Allah truly knows someone's heart and intentions.
And it's such a good reminder for us today.
Especially
with social media.
Where it's all about.
Yeah, where it's all about
self-promotion.
Self-promotion and, flattery and all that.
Yeah.
We have to be more authentic.
Yeah.
And focus on genuine praise. That actually uplifts people, encourages humility.
Instead of feeding the ego.
Yeah. So Book 48 also touches on this really interesting concept of maturity and legal responsibility. And we see this in Hadith 802, which shares the story of Ibn Umar.
Right, the son of Umar.
Yeah, he was so eager
to fight in battle.
To participate in battle.
Yeah.
But the Prophet Muhammad said he was too young.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like...
So there was an age limit?
Yeah, there's an age limit for participating in warfare.
Okay, interesting.
And it's because certain responsibilities...
Require a certain level of maturity.
Require a certain level of...
Understanding.
Yeah, maturity and understanding. And this hadith,
Yeah.
Along with Hadith 833, which discusses the age of puberty, as the marker for the obligation of Friday prayers.
Right.
It really gives us insight into how Islam
use this
transition
from childhood to adulthood.
Yeah, from childhood to adulthood.
It's not just like an overnight thing.
It's a process.
It's a process.
And it's a gradual introduction to religious and societal obligation.
As you mature.
As you mature.
Yeah.
I like that.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's about respecting...
the different stages.
Yeah, different stages.
Of development.
Of development.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of religious obligations,
yeah.
I want to touch on Hadith 837,
which
deals with the topic of accusing one's spouse of adultery.
Okay, a very serious matter.
Very serious matter.
Yeah.
So this Hadith tells the story of a man who accused his wife of infidelity.
Right.
And the Prophet Muhammad immediately demanded proof.
He wanted evidence.
Yeah. Because he said making such accusation...
without proof.
Without proof?
Is a very serious thing.
Has severe consequences.
Yeah.
And he also referenced the procedure of lien, which we talked about earlier.
In Surat al-Nur.
Yes, Surat al-Nur.
verse 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, this really emphasizes
a need for
clear evidence.
Yeah, the gravity of these accusations and the need for
compelling evidence.
Yeah, clear and compelling evidence.
Before making any judgments.
About protecting people.
From false accusations.
Yeah, from false accusations and protecting.
The sanctity of marriage.
Yeah, the sanctity of marriage.
The family structure.
Yeah, the family structure.
Yeah.
And it's another example of how this book really connects practical legal matters with these broader ethical principles.
Right.
So Hadith 844.
Yeah.
I found this one really striking.
Yeah. What is it?
It says, whoever has to take an oath should swear by Allah or remain silent.
Wow, that's powerful.
It's so simple.
But it's so powerful.
It really gets to the heart of the matter.
It's about the sanctity of oaths.
Yeah.
And using Allah's name.
With reverence.
Yeah, with reverence and honesty.
Not taking it lightly.
Not taking it lightly.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder to be mindful of our words.
Especially when we're invoking the name of Allah.
Especially when we're invoking the name of Allah.
Right.
And it's not just about oaths.
Right.
Hadith 845.
Okay.
It cautions us against using eloquent speech or persuasive arguments to deceive people.
Right. To gain an unfair advantage.
Or to gain an unfair advantage.
Yeah, basically manipulating people with your words.
Right.
Yeah.
And the Prophet Muhammad, he said, even if you win a case unjustly through these tactics.
You're essentially acquiring a piece of fire.
You're acquiring a piece of fire.
In the eyes of Allah.
Yeah, in the eyes of Allah.
So it might seem like a victory in this world.
Right.
But ultimately, it's a loss.
It's a spiritual loss.
Yeah, a spiritual loss.
And this principle extends beyond just legal settings.
Right.
It applies to everything.
To how we communicate in general.
It's like how we communicate.
Business dealings, personal relationships.
Yeah.
Even social media.
Even social media.
Right.
It's about being authentic, truthful.
Yeah.
And recognizing that manipulating words
can have consequences.
Yeah, for personal gain.
Spiritual consequences.
Yeah, spiritual consequences. There's just so much wisdom
there is
packed into this book.
It's incredible how relevant it still is.
Yeah, like these hadiths collected centuries ago.
Yeah.
They still speak to us today.
They do.
And one hadith that really stood out to me was the one where Abu Sufyan, who's a former opponent of the Prophet Muhammad, recounts a conversation he had with the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And this is in Hadith 846.
Okay.
So Heraclius, he asks Abu Sufyan
about the
Prophet Muhammad's teachings.
Right.
And Abu Sufyan shares
some of the core principles.
Yeah, like establishing prayer, speaking the truth,
being chaste,
keeping
promises,
paying back trusts,
basics.
Yeah, the basics.
The foundations.
And Heraclius' response is so interesting.
What does he say?
He says that these qualities are the hallmarks of a true prophet.
Wow.
And he wasn't even a Muslim.
Right. He was an outsider looking in.
Yeah. He was an outsider looking in.
And he recognized the truth.
Of these principles.
And
it just shows that Islam's message
is universal.
It's universal.
It's for all of humanity.
Yeah, it's not just for a particular time or place.
Right.
And it's interesting to contrast this with Hadith 847.
Right.
Which outlines the characteristics
of a hypocrite. Okay.
And the Prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
He identifies 3 key signs.
Okay, what are they?
Lying.
Okay.
Being dishonest when entrusted with something.
Right.
And breaking promises.
So basically the opposite.
Yeah, the opposite.
Of what Abu Sufyan just described.
The exact opposite.
Why?
Of those virtues.
Yeah.
And it really highlights
the importance of aligning our actions.
Yeah, walking the talk.
With our words.
Walking the talk.
Right. It's not enough to just talk the talk.
It's not enough to just say you believe.
Right.
You have to actually live it.
Yeah, your actions have to reflect your beliefs.
And that's what true faith is all about.
It is.
It's about your character.
Yeah.
How you interact with others.
And striving to be better.
Striving to be better.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
And this theme of the connection between faith, action, and accountability, it runs throughout the book.
It does.
And we see it so beautifully illustrated.
Where?
In Hadith 849.
Okay.
Which tells the story of a Jewish man.
Okay.
Asking Ibn Abbas a question about Prophet Moses.
Okay, interesting.
But what's really remarkable
is
how Ibn Abbas responds.
What does he say?
He doesn't just answer the question.
He doesn't.
He actually uses this as an opportunity
To teach a broader lesson.
Yeah, to teach a broader lesson.
Yeah.
About the importance of relying on the Quran.
Oh.
Because the Quran is the most recent and undistorted revelation from Allah.
Right.
So he's encouraging Muslims
to seek knowledge from their own scriptures
rather
than relying on external sources.
And it's a really important reminder
it is
about the centrality of the Quran.
In Islamic teaching.
Yeah, in Islamic teachings. And it also encourages us to be
more discerning.
Yeah, discerning about
when it comes to knowledge.
Where we get our knowledge from.
Right.
You know, there's so much information out there.
Yeah. You have to be careful what you believe.
You have to be careful what you believe.
And where you get it from.
And this is actually echoed in another hadith, Hadith 850, where Ibn Abbas is addressing the Muslim community. And he basically says the same thing.
Like, why are you going to other sources?
He's like, why are you guys seeking knowledge from the people of the scriptures when you have the Quran?
Wow.
And he's even surprised that he hasn't seen anyone from the people of the scriptures asking Muslims about what's been revealed to them.
Right.
It's like he's saying, hey, you guys have something really special here.
You have the truth.
Yeah, you have the truth. Why are you going elsewhere?
Yeah.
And it's a really thought-provoking observation that really highlights
a unique status.
The unique status
of the
Quran in Islamic belief. And it's a reminder
to study it,
to really delve deep into its teachings.
Yeah.
And to appreciate its power.
To guide us.
Yeah, to guide us in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
I mean, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
And yet, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah. That's the beauty of it.
I know, it's kind of overwhelming in a way.
It is.
You know, we've talked about the weight of words, the importance of oaths, the complexities of legal proceedings.
All these different situations.
Foster relationships and their impact on marriage.
That's a lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
But there's one hadith that I think ties it all together.
Okay, what's that?
It's Hadith 8851.
Okay.
The parable of the boat.
Ah, yes.
It's such a powerful hadith.
And simple.
And so simple. But it really gets at the heart of social responsibility.
Social responsibility, yeah.
And how our actions
are all interconnected.
Interconnected, yeah.
Okay.
You remember the story, right?
Yeah.
Refresh my memory.
Okay, so there's a group of people on a boat.
Okay.
Some are on the upper deck.
Okay, enjoying the view.
Yeah. Enjoying the breeze, the view.
Okay.
And then there are some people below deck.
Okay.
And they need to access water.
Okay.
But going up and down all the time, it bothers the people on the upper deck.
Right, it's inconvenient.
It's inconvenient, yeah.
Okay, so what do they do?
Well, one of the people below deck gets frustrated.
Okay.
And decides to just drill a hole.
Oh, no.
In the boat, right beneath where they're sitting.
So he can just get water whenever he wants.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to bother anyone.
But that's going to sink the whole boat.
Exactly.
That's so short-sighted.
It is incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah.
And it's only thinking about himself.
Right.
Not about the consequences for everyone else.
So then the question is,
what do the people on the upper deck do?
Yeah, what do they do?
Do they stop him?
And save everyone.
Yeah.
Including the guy who's drilling the hole.
Right.
Or do they let him continue?
And they all perish.
It's such a powerful analogy.
It is.
For how our choices impact everyone.
Not just ourselves.
You know, not just ourselves.
The whole community.
The whole community.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do things that seem small.
Or insignificant.
But they can have
huge ripple effects.
Yeah, huge ripple
that we don't even realize.
Right.
Yeah.
So this hadith is really asking us.
Yeah, are we contributing to the well-being of the community?
Right.
Or are we drilling holes in the boat?
Are we the hole driller? Are we the hole driller?
It's a powerful question.
It is.
And it makes us really think about
our intentions?
Our intentions.
Our actions.
Our actions.
No,
consequences of our choices.
Are we thinking about the collective good?
The greater good?
The greater good.
Yeah.
Or are we just thinking about ourselves?
Yeah, in our own little bubble.
Yeah, our own little bubble.
Yeah.
It's also about speaking up against injustice.
Right.
Preventing harm.
Even when it's difficult.
Yeah, even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
Because sometimes silence could be just as damaging.
As action.
Yeah, as the action itself.
Yeah.
So I think this is a really fitting way to end our deep dive.
Our discussion.
Into Sahih Bukhari, Book 48.
Yeah.
Because it reminds us.
That we're all connected.
That we're all connected.
And we have a responsibility
to each other.
To each other, to the community.
To uphold justice.
To uphold justice.
To speak truth.
To speak truth.
And to be mindful of our actions.
And our words.
And our words.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
This has been a great discussion.
Yeah, it's been a really insightful journey.
Journey.
And we hope you'll continue to explore
these teachings.
On
your own.
On your own.
Yeah.
And until next time.
May peace be upon you.
May peace be upon you.